Empowered to Esme. Welcome back, colleagues. We are live, and very soon we'll have few viewers joining us. But while we are still waiting for few to join, Prof wanted to check with Esme as to how these cruise liners dealt with COVID. You want to expatiate on that, Prof? We are live now.
Yes, I'm just curious, Esme, that they seem to be so focused on their work staff and staff-centric, if you like, that when something like COVID hits and, challenges the economy, I would be curious to know if they sustained that, staff-centricness, if one may put it that way.
At the moment when COVID happened, all cruise liners has come to a stop.
Mm-hmm.
Because you must remember, health and safety is number one priority. Health and safety, and you must know a cruise line is an enclosed environment. So if one person gets ill, it's just going to go like a virus. So guests were evacuated. Cruise companies had to send employees home. Was very challenging because some employees were stuck in certain cities, parts of the world where they couldn't leave immediately. They had to evacuate. Cruise lines still maintain funds. Some of them had to merge with other companies to maintain livelihood of survival. And some of them had to sell one or two of their ships, because these cruise lines like Carnival have 33 ships, right? Royal Caribbean has over 20 ships. They got a lot of ships, so one or two, three ships they had to sell, and the others they had to be in port, being maintenance, of course. But they did lose a lot of money. But unfortunately, these cruise lines are also covered by insurance, especially when you under American flagship. Yeah.
Wow. Interesting. We will all be very interested to read a little bit more about the cruise line industry, because it looks like there's a lot to learn from there. Thank you very much, Esme. We're going to come back to revisit some of these points during the reflection panel. We welcome Prof. Cecil Bodibe segment, and that is theme number 3, the author and the practitioner's perspective. Prof, it's always a pleasure to share stage with you. You and I, we have done so much diversity work, but every time I listen to you, I learn something out of your insight, from your insight. So yeah, the floor is yours. The viewers are tuned in. Greet them, welcome them, tell them a little bit about yourself, and we look forward to your topic.
Thank you, Sam, for the welcome, and greetings to Queen Esme, Abdul, and Busiso, and all the people who are tuned in. I must say it has been a very informative morning, with Queen reminding us of the importance of crucial conversations. Those tough conversations that we do not have, and there was a lot to learn from that. Esme with a case study with very practical tools. Now, I would like to start off by saying I spent a lifetime in higher education as a student, subsequently as a lecturer, as an academic. So it has been a considerable amount of time. Very humbling, very informative. But in as far as today is concerned, I'd just like to start with sharing some 2-3 personal stories. When I thought that I understand diversity and inclusion and belonging, and I'm a practitioner. I'm expert at this. My younger daughter went to the then RAW, which is UJ. And 6 months after she had been there, he came back home excited that, you know, she met some boyfriend, and the boyfriend's initials are JC. So in my naivety, I thought JC is something like Jabu Kele, you know, the C's name would be a Kele. So that's what went on in my mind. Unbeknownst to him, was that when one Saturday she said, Dad, this guy will be coming home, this JC. I didn't expect to get Johann Klassen. Now, Johann Klassen, very typical Afrikaner. Here am I, you know, thinking I'm open-minded, I understand. But at the cold face of my interaction with Johann Klassen, it dawned on me that sometimes we just talk the talk. We don't walk the walk. Because I had to dig deep into self, into understanding, asking myself all those questions that, you know, confront us when we deal with difference. We laugh about it now with my daughter, that I tried to put my best foot forward, but I shared with her I struggled. I'm making the point that sometimes when we deal with all these diversity dimensions, we think we're okay, we think we understand them. It is when they come to the cold face, it is when they're at our doorstep that the real revelation comes. Are we there? Have we embraced change? Are we celebrating the diversity that we preach among others? So that was you know, a very fascinating encounter that got me thinking and talking. The second was when I served as a dean of students in a cruise liner. And in the cruise liner, you know, catering for students around the globe, and especially American students, where I saw, you know, students at the cold face being openly LGBTQIA. And then I realized I'm struggling with that, notwithstanding the fact that it is one of the dimensions of diversity. And lo and behold, one evening when there was almost like an LGBTQI evening, I said to myself, I'm taking a nap, and then went to sleep, and only woke up when the function was over. I'm making the point that as we have these conversations, one, we are on a journey, and we ourselves still have to do the work. And what is more, there are things that we still struggle with, and we need to be upfront. We need to acknowledge those, and openly, you know, continuing being these perpetual students, these perpetual learners. And on a lighter note, entering a bathroom in one home, I saw this big poster: if you sprinkle when you tinkle, be a sweetie, wipe a city. And then I then realized that, you know, the father is in the minority. It is the wife and the three girls who are worried about how he handles his bathroom etiquette. That too, at the cold face, where father interacts with daughters and wife, there is diversity, there is inclusion, there is belonging. So I'm starting there to say diversity and inclusion and belonging are with us all the time. I mean, Queen Esme have appropriately called them the lifestyle, the essence of who we are as human. Now, just in terms of the brief outline, and because we are in the LEKGOTLA modality, I went back to some of the proverbs that came from the African crawls, when men were there becoming philosophical and trying to put the best foot forward. They would come up with the funniest of idioms and proverbs. For example, if cattle are led by a heifer, then they go astray. And the assumption is that when they are led by a bull, there is no problem. Already in that, you look at a paradigm that is very paternalistic, that favors patriarchy. And of course, when men want to gallivant at night and do not want to be accountable to anybody, to have those crucial, difficult conversations, when you ask him, how come you are coming now and it is 2 a.m. in the morning? He says, no, monna ke phoka wa boshigo. A man is like dew, he falls at night. Running away from engagement, running away from accountability. I'm making the point that some of these things are so embedded in us, and we need to relearn, we need to unlearn. I need to understand that I am not my grandfather in Lesotho who could afford to say, Eta holla saka mona, I have the final say. I need to understand that there is equality. My wife is an equal. My wife is not a miniature adult, and certainly our partners are adults. They are not miniature adults. So the starting point of my conversation is focusing on sexism and homophobia. I'll spend a bit of time on those and then move over to talk a bit about some of the solutions suggested, and then get to the books that I wrote, and then round off the conversation. Now, as I do that, I'm mindful of the slogan of the people with disability who say, nothing about us without us. I'm not here being a mouthpiece for women or persons with LGBTIQA persons. They can speak with amazing eloquence for themselves. I'm coming here as a fellow human, having observed what happens in workshops I facilitate, where my daughter once asked me, what are those topics that make people squirm on their seats when we discuss them? And in the main, it's around sexism. In the main, is around homophobia, especially how we handle LGBTQIA persons. Now, one crucial point I'd like to make is, once the bug of diversity, inclusion, and belonging gets into you, it's a lifetime challenge. It is an enduring challenge in this sense that almost on a daily basis, we learn something new and new challenges arise. If I may just give you examples, the vaunted Harvard University, with 375 years of existence, still struggle with issues of sexism. I mean, one Professor Horowitz presented a paper entitled Complicated 375 Years of Women at Harvard. I'm here making the point, we need to be prepared to be in there for a long haul. We need to be prepared to engage, and to realize that these crucial, tough conversations will be with us. But I think I'm getting a little impatient when, every August we'll say it is Women's Month and we'll have 16 days of activism, as though that is where the story ends. It is a 365 day issue. It is a 24/7 issue. For as long as we're alive, we need that sensitivity. We need that awareness that equality is very, very important. Something happened. There is a famous golf club called the Augusta Golf Club in the US, which has been in existence now for almost 90 years. They have been excluding women until 1 year recently, when Virginia Rometty, a female CEO of IBM, had to make a presentation at that golf club. They wanted the money, they wanted the sponsorship, and Virginia Rometty drew the line on the sand. Stop using this golf, gentlemen only, ladies forbidden. If I am forbidden, the money from IBM is also forbidden. So they relented and the skies did not fall. I think main from our own insecurities, from our own fears, we tend to want to keep the status quo, not understanding that when we recognize equality, when we recognize parity, when we see women as equals, we ourselves become empowered. The quality of our own lives is enhanced. And I think I would like us to look at quality from that perspective. It's not like saying we are doing women a favor. If we recognize equality, we are bringing about, the merging of two minds, bigger minds, better minds, and the quality of the life of the family improves. When you say, like your grandfather, "Eta holla saka mona, I'm still the most important persons," you deny not only yourself of opportunities, but the quality of family life, the environment in which children grow, and so many other things. I have a number of American examples that demonstrate that, notwithstanding the long journey that they themselves have undertaken on diversity, inclusion, and belonging, they still struggle. Very recently, there's a class act in the Washington district of women police who are saying, to this day, we still experience sexual harassment. To this day, we still have cases of rape. And in our own country here, the president lamented the fact that, there is another pandemic that is taking place. And at the heart of it, if you look at it carefully, is also our failure to treat women as equal, where there is parity in the home, where there is mutual respect, where there is empathy. And the Taliban, how they are going about their business, setting up a new government, to the stubborn nature of, handling. So, I'm getting an echo. Okay. The stubbornness of sexism, and really the urgent need to look deep into ourselves. I'm including myself here as somebody who classified myself as male, because there's a whole continuum. Gender is no longer binary. There's a whole continuum, as I'll demonstrate later when I come to the LGBTQIA community. Now, in what may seem an unrelated matter, Tembeka Ngcukai Toby, in his latest book, Land Matters, picks up the fact that the law up to this stage is not sensitive to equality in terms of how the rights of women when it comes to land are protected, but not only protected, promoted. And I would like to quote this verbatim. And he says, Mugai Toby sensitizes us to the reality that unless we are vigilant, even the land restitution program can perpetuate inequalities. This does not have to be the case, however. The constitution legislation does not operate outside, the restitution, legislation does not operate outside of the constitution's framework, which requires steps to be taken to protect and promote equal rights for women. So it's omnipervasive. It follows us everywhere. It is more than just the dimensions that the scholars indicate. It is far deeper. And I think unless that appreciation is there and the agency for redress is recognized, I think we will not make the necessary progress. And I see it with the female students over the many years that one has worked with, has interacted with, where they still experience sexism. They still experience psychological unsafety in the environment in which they study. The onslaught coming from male students, male lecturers. And I've got more daughters than sons, and I'm jealous that they have environments that are safe, environments that give them equality, where they are valued and not disrespected. Equally, individuals with LGBTIQA, where homophobia is still rampant, where people get killed because of their sexual orientation. That what rights do we have, those who are in the majority in terms of orientation? What gives us the gumption to impose tyranny on those who are different? And I think as recently as 3-4 days ago, Joe Biden, addressing the UN General Assembly, still emphatically made the point, and I quote him, "We all must defend the rights of LGBTIQA plus individuals so that they can live and love openly without fear." And the number of years that one has spent, on earth has allowed one to be exposed to children at the age of 2 years, 3 years. I have a niece who blatantly refused to put on a dress at the age of 2, at the age of 3, who blatantly refused for people to touch her hair and plait her. Now, who are we to say, at that age, there is choice? At that age, LGBTIQA people have a choice. One of my students said to me, "Prof, do you see my skin is black? Even if I'd wished tomorrow, this skin can never be white." And I listened deeply and painfully and realized that we need to disabuse ourselves of thinking that this is choice. It is fundamentally who people are. To call it choice is to what one scholar called an ontological denial. Ontology refers to the existence of things. And when you question the existence of others, you're playing God in a sense. And I think I'm not judging the evangelicals, but they have come out strongly and even made examples like saying, even animals know the difference between male and female. And unfortunately, it is not true, because researchers have found that in the many aquariums of the world, there are penguins that are lesbian, there are penguins that are gay. So when you say, this is not natural, are penguins not natural? That would be the question. So these two areas, sexism and homophobia, are problematic. And I thought, let me be courageous and get out there and stick my neck out and call for passionately a relook at how we look into these two areas, especially because, we tend to clutch at straws to try and justify our skewed perspectives. I think the fields of endocrinology, the field of psychology, medicine, and religion still need to do a lot of research around the manifestation of hormones in the LGBTQA plus, when they deal with those individuals. I mean, one of our very top athletes here has been, denied a powerful opportunity of displaying her talents simply because there are humans who want to play God. There are humans who want to tamper with her testosterone levels. And they don't say, Michael Phelps, you have got long arms and therefore some advantage in swimming. So what if it is my God-given attribute to have more testosterone than other females? What is the crime there? I'm hoping, since recently I saw that, most of that research is now having a relook at how they arrived at their conclusions. One would hope that they will offer her an apology and really get her to participate. Now, I guess when we bring these things closer home, these dimensions, especially sexism and homophobia, our own empathy gets deepened, our own understanding, and I think we will be more helpful and less discriminating and less rejecting if we move from the fundamental premise of accepting the reality that there are these individuals who are different. If we move and get to the level where we understand that there is equality among men and women, the LGBTIQA individuals are not children of a lesser God. Like all of us, they were created by the same God. And I see no reason whatsoever for the discrimination, for the rejection, for the judging, for the negative attitudes. You find, especially on the continent of Africa, where even kleptocrats who steal and keep their people in poverty, having the audacity to judge. Somebody said, hey, there was Adam and Eve and Adam and Steve, and we laugh about it and think he has said something powerful. We forget his kleptocracy, and we want to echo him in the judgment of those who are different. I find it deeply problematic. I find it deeply disturbing. Let us not allow fear and uncertainty and lack of knowledge make judges of us of things that we do not know. The alphabet has meanings, and I will not bore you with that, but it helps to go and look closely at what the L stands for, at what the G stands for. You know, a lesbian, a woman who's primarily attracted to women. Gay, a man who is primarily attracted to men. Sometimes, and a broad term to individuals primarily attracted to the same sex. Let's, you know, deepen our knowledge, read the research out there, familiarize ourselves with the definition of concepts. But to make the bigger connection is when we have these kids who are different in our churches, in our families, in our communities. Let's have the humility to find out. Let us be curious. Let us engage in those conversations, those tough conversations, coming from a point of humility, coming from a point of empathy, coming from a point of trying to understand. Not so long ago, I reread a book that was published in 2009, Half the Sky, written by Nicholas Christoph and Cheryl Woodan. Now, the fascinating thing and the fascinating assertion that they make is that had sexism been had sexism been affecting men or males as they define themselves, some of these problems that seem stubborn and intractable would long have gone, because, you know, men would be at the cold face, and they would feel the shoe the shoe bending. And I strongly recommend really that read of Half the Sky by Nicholas Christoph and Cheryl Udan. But among some of the strategies that they propose is really looking at the education of girls, you know, across the continent, across the globe, really focusing on the education of girls, and providing girl children with crucial aspects about maternal health, to start early educating our boys and young men not to devalue girls and young women. You know, you'd expect at our universities that we have the cream of the crop in an intellectual sense. But when you still see those guys engaging in sexual harassment, engaging in rape, engaging in gender-based violence, you ask yourself, where are we getting it wrong? Why are we not connecting with a mindset of respect, of equality, and not sexualizing those who are different? Udan and Christoph says we need to look at programs to empower and enable women to have the power to take decisions about their bodies, and not come from an element of power, of patriarchy, and perpetuating you know, these stereotypes that came a long way from our forebears. Removing economic barriers faced by women, and elevating the status of women in society. When young girls see successful female role models, they tend to have a quest to emulate them. We need to revisit our culture and break those cultural barriers, and refuse to this Jew that comes, you know, at the heart of night, and begin to say, look, take responsibility Don't galavant at night. At worst, give a report. But most crucially, women in positions of leadership as well need to be the driving force of these solutions. The assumption here being deeper empathy. They'll be fighting the cause of other sisters. They'll be passionate about it. But most importantly, they'll be credible, because the young girls would know that they have walked the walk. The advertisements, the messaging that still perpetuates, sexism and the discrimination against the LGBTQIA community needs to be revisited, and we need to be vocal when we see advertisements like this that still perpetuate, all the isms. But in the context of my presentation here, the LGBTQIA plus community, there's a crucial work done by Robert Prichnik, who says, let's stop talking to the minds of people. Let's stop focusing on the head. Yes, the head is important, thinking is important, problem solving is important, but let's also repackage our messages to begin addressing the heart, the habits of the heart. Because when the heart changes, the cognitive processes would also change. Let's bring to the young girls messages of hope, messages of commitment, and most crucially, at the grassroots level, let us bring about those results that indicate that we are committed to changes, not only during the 16 days of activism and in August, but it is a lifetime challenge that we accept as men. Esme talked about a model of change that she uses, but for purposes of the discussion, I also identified a model by Milton Bennett, who says, at the beginning, we all have, an element of denial. And I think the examples that I gave at the beginning when I introduced my topic, that I myself, thinking I'm a practitioner, I'm au fait with this, I'm open-minded. When I encountered that white boy for the first time in my life, not only as a white Afrikaner boy, but as a potential son-in-law, the dynamics changed. And I'm happy to say that that relationship lasted, and he's married to my daughter now.
No.
I'm happy I didn't allow, the mote in my eye to close the relationship with the son-in-law and shut him out and say, hey, white boy, go away.
Good one.
To my daughter for allowing me the opportunity to see this person as a human being. And I think there are many families who can say that when he first set foot here, we never thought you guys are going anywhere, but thankfully the journey, the story is at the happy end.
Yes.
So working through our denial, working through our defense, lot of defenses. No, you see, I'm not like them. You see, I work in the diversity space. No, you see, I'm open-minded. But sometimes reality should hit you, and you need to realize that, hey, that is not the story. To minimize things. Gender issues, man, are not serious. We have got weightier things to attend to. The minute you hear somebody say that, trouble. we need
Yeah.
to take this thing seriously and not minimize them. Then it takes some time, and once you get to the level of acceptance, adaptation, and internalizing and integrating, that is where we make a difference, even as practitioners, even as facilitators. When we get into an organization and it becomes evident in our presentation that we are not talking the talk, we are walking the walk. We are serious. We want to see a difference. We want to see progress. And in our humble way, we want the organizations to move forward, because we can only have a better world, when we are serious about climate change, all of us, when we are serious about sustainability, when we are serious about the celebration of diversity, inclusion, and belonging. Now, having said all this, in the workshops that I facilitated, in the organizations where I worked, I distilled, these experiences. I distilled these narratives, and then ended up with 3 books: Salt and Pepper, the challenges of diversity and inclusion. And then it was after one colored participant had said, I'm a mix of colors. I'm salt and pepper. So I do acknowledge in the book. And then procrastination is, come on. Procrastination is costly. Was again working with students over many years and realizing that they struggle when it comes to managing self and managing time. And then, of course, the most recent one, my battle with COVID-19 and digging deep, and the resilience that became necessary, became crucial. So I'm making the point, this is a lifelong journey. This is a lifestyle. This is part of being a human. And this is about creating a better world for us all. And at this time, when people have, cabin fever, when we are together most of the time, one hopes from these conversations we get the tools that make us more tolerant, that provide us with more empathy, and that deepen the human experience. That we are not here forever. At one point or the other, my body must go and feed the maggots. And the challenge is therefore, whilst I breathe, to share these experiences, to share these tools, and then move forward in that way. And as I move to, concluding and then taking questions, I recently came across a book, Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race. You can hear the author is Edo Lodge. You can hear he's a bit frustrated and angry. But he makes the point in the conclusion chapter, and I would like to conclude with his words. There is no justice. There is just us. There is no justice. There is just us. And I'm making the point that this short statement must remind us that the messy conversations are still important to hold before reaching resolution or on matters of race, of sexism, and homophobia. After all, to this day, you still find wives in Pennsylvania, in the District of York, vetting books that advocate diversity and inclusion. And this begins to say to us, our work is cut out for us. And there is no justice. There is just us. With those words of Lodge, I would like to end my own.
Prof, mouthful, insightful, challenging, inspiring, asking, and making us to look into ourselves. You know, sometimes when you hold conversations like this, us as facilitators and coaches, we fall into a trap of thinking that we are doing it for others. And what I hear you saying is that diversity does not reside outside you. It is inside all of us. It is a work in progress. It's never going to end. And the day you start thinking that you are okay, that's the day when you become blinded. That's what I've heard you saying, Prof. And
Absolutely, absolutely. Well captured, well summarized. Thank you.
Beautiful. And at the end of the session, during our reflection panel, we will give you all of you the opportunity to share with the viewers how they get hold of your work, your material, Prof. In your case, in terms of the 3 books, I think it's very important that people also know where to get hold of your books, because that's where you offloaded your wisdom, your experience, your knowledge. You can still help a lot of people through those books, even facilitation, because you and I, we've done this work before, and there's still a lot of work to be done. And we want people to engage you, not because we want you to make money. That is part of it, but I think the main thing is that in Sepedi, they're saying, which basically means that you have to impart the knowledge to the young ones and the generations after you. Don't leave this world with that knowledge. So that is the spirit of this platform, also engagement, and the same with the fellow speakers. That's what we will want you to do. At the end of the day, we want people to say, we want to engage you more, Esme, with the story you shared with us about that unique environment in which you carved your insights into diversity. And Queen, how do I hold those crucial conversations? You have just empowered so many people around. Is it okay for your boss to phone you at the time when you are about to dish up dinner for your husband and your family? Can we have a crucial conversations with our leaders about this and with our partners about this? Because this is exactly the point at which we are going to experience domestic violence without knowing that we are also vulnerable to it. It's not only the less knowledgeable that get affected by domestic violence, and it's not only beating when we talk about domestic violence. It's also abuse in terms of the conversations that are triggered by wrong calls, And then, of course, we are now going to move into, I hope, Abdul, your network is stabilizing, because it has been challenging you, and we can't wait for your moment when you going to spin it up or spin it around and say, stop managing diversity, you need to lead diversity. We want to hear that. And I want also to prepare you, colleagues, that in the reflection panel, we want you to reflect not only on what you being given the opportunity to share with us and the viewers has revealed to you, but also what the other speakers have actually revealed to you, because it's an aggregation, it's consolidation, and then also what you think we need to do to make this topic less sensitive and less challenging, especially from a position of leadership. And then, of course, as I say, and then when you check out, we will guide you that you check out with what will have been confirmed by what we discussed today. We are glad that this conversation has been recorded, so we want it to have relevance beyond just today. So we want to know if you yourself have few confirmation done, and is conversation like this the best way to continue sharpening our insights? That's the first point we're going to ask you to check out with, Cecil included as well, myself and Michael. And then we will also want to hear from you if there has been moments where, you know, the penny dropped for you, because I'm challenged as I speak. I always thought that I've worked with diversity a lot, like Prof was saying, but every time I think about it, it evokes certain emotions in me, you know, and I'm asking myself, why are these emotions evoked when we talk about these issues? Am I also still having a work to do? Because that's what the conscious leadership is all about. You need to hear the emotions that certain topics are evoking in you. You need to sense what you are sensing, what your body is communicating to you, and what thoughts are brought into your mind just because of what Prof has said. Because if you start doing that, then you know that we are all vulnerable, and it's okay to be vulnerable and not lie to ourselves that it's not us but the others. We want really to wrap up with that we're really learning from ourselves. And today, self-conscious leadership is the thing that is out there. It's no longer about you being in command of the ship and shouting instructions. Before you shout instructions, you need to engage with how are you going to show up as you speak to your people? Could it be that is the way you talk to your people that make them not to perform? That you shut them up, that you create toxic environment, that you are not having empathy with them, and therefore as a result, you lead them like they don't have emotions. So that is really that I want you to reflect on. I also want you to reflect on what new real lessons and insights have you gained? Because today we came as subject matter experts, but we are also saying that to the people that are listening us, we're not claiming to be the best. We're not claiming to be the masters of this. We are just facilitating, but we are putting ourselves in this process. And we are actually empowering ourselves too as we speak about these issues. We are open-minded that you are listening to us is giving us the opportunity to learn by reflecting on our insights. So that is a new insights, a new knowledge. And then the fourth point is what are you taking home? Because as human beings, we exist in societies. There are other people who don't have a privilege of logging into a call, into a session like this. They don't have a privilege of knowing who sees on me and Prof and everybody else. If this was a meal in a restaurant and you want to take a doggy back, and then because you believe somebody at home or somebody that you know must hear this, that one thing, what is it that you're walking back with? Because we are believing that by this monthly LEKGOTLAs, we are creating a culture of lifelong learning. And that is a type of a mindset that is sometimes not existing in us, in our societies, because you think, I got my master's, I got my PhD, I'm okay, I'm sorted. And that is when we start dying and people start not learning through us, because we take these titles, we say we are sorted, we don't have to go through training, we are managers, only our employees must get trained. So we are saying, we have LEKGOTLA here every month, come. it will show you that the more you learn, the more you know, there's more you don't know. And then lastly, which is my favorite, by the way, I use these 5 points every time when I check out of coaching sessions, because I want every coaching session with my coaches to be a learning for me too. And sometimes you think the session was really useless. You didn't really make the client excited. And then when you hear the checkout, because you're also checking out as they check out, you say, oh my goodness, I didn't know that this was the best session. Now, what is it that, as a result of this LEKGOTLA, you are going to start doing from today onwards? Because we want you also to not go back as the same person after attending LEKGOTLA. Or what is it? What are the behaviors that you are going to inculcate, the new behaviors? Or the opposite, what is it that you think you are now going to stop doing? I'm sure the example of Prof, I've heard this proverb of this example of JC many times. Every time Prof tells you, it makes me open my eyes and ears and say, wow. So, I mean, that must have been very challenging, Prof. I mean, you probably have some ideal husband for your daughter before she brought JC home. But I'm sure today you have so much you have learned from JC and your daughter as couples, what they go through, what they experience, and you are rich with insights. You're not talking from theory, you're talking from practice. So what is it that you are going to stop doing? What behaviors you are going to start working on? And then the other thing, which is a great hobby of mine, is what the conscious leadership group, as I said before, are bringing up and say, all of us naturally, we are inclined to default into below the line, because the below the line behaviors are the behaviors of people who are in a survival mode. Every time the company department fails, you want to blame somebody, because you don't want to be the one that's taking the flag as a leader. You try to find somebody. That's a survival mode. That is below the line mindset of leader. But they saying that the leaders that are really good at conscious management, conscious leadership, are the ones who continuously pushing themselves to be above the line, where you make yourself part of the solution and part of the problem, and you create an environment that is empowering for your people, because you know it's important for them to be in an environment where they can function well. Yeah. And so we have to remain continuous students of leadership, perpetual students of leadership. You can't say I've arrived. And once you take that mindset, it's amazing how then you develop a collective attitude, collective leadership mindset. And you say, I just happen to be the captain. I don't know it all. Therefore, I surround myself with people who know better, and mine is just to lead them. And that is the last checking in that I want you to reflect on. I'm saying these things before Abdul comes in, because Abdul's topic is exactly that, of saying, stop managing diversity, lead diversity. So that means if you are going to lead diversity, then you need to worry about your capabilities to lead. Because leading diversity is nothing different to leading processes. Yeah, and I read an article by a McKinsey group where they talk about the principle, the best they call them the indicators of agile companies, and they use the example of Amazon and others as agile. They talk about, you have to look at your structure, you have to look at your strategy, you have to look at processes, you have to look at people and technology. Therefore, diversity is one of those processes that you have to lead as a leader. You don't only lead people, you lead all those things and you aggregate it, you integrate. And today, you also have to lead the Internet of Things. It's not enough to have good people, talented people, if you don't know how to then augment them with technology platforms. And make it possible for them to still function, but using the technology platforms and coping with the stress that is brought to them by these technologies, which now is no longer a choice, it's a must. So therefore, diversity, going back to your topic, Queen, and Esme, diversity is business. So these technologies are bringing diversity now. It's a diversity of things that you must manage and you must lead. With those ways, I want us to really use the next 30 minutes in preparation for Abdul's topic to just reflect a little bit on what we have learned ourselves by being on this platform, but also what we have communicated to people, and how are we going to package ourselves going forward as leaders. And I think if we get leadership in the context of what we are doing, man, we have a great things to offer our country, our society, our continent, our world. Because a lot of people think we haven't got a leadership crisis. We do have a leadership crisis. We have enough of people who graduate from leadership programs who occupy positions called leadership. We have enough of those, but whether we have effective leaders who really work on themselves on a daily basis, the mindset is a problem. And that we have to work hard. And it's not only a South African issue or African issue, it's a global issue. COVID has shown that to us. And these conversations that we are having through LEKGOTLA, more of it is required. There's a little shortage of conversations that truly make us reflect on us as leaders. You know, everybody wants to become a leader, but when we get to that position of leader, we found that we haven't worked enough on ourselves. And then we get overwhelmed. Issues of mental health as a result of leaders being overwhelmed are big right now as we speak. So it is in our interest as leaders to work on us, because we need that emotional capacity to be able to survive in these leadership positions. Otherwise, we're going to have leaders who are going to have difficulties that are going to affect people. So those are my closing remarks after the three speakers in preparation for Abdul to come and educate us on this phenomena that he's researching. Before we go there, I also want to extend an invitation to you from my friend Colin Reddy at the University of Johannesburg, who has just texted me to say he's working on a research on Ubuntu, and he's asking people who are prepared to participate in that research to complete that. I said, you know what, this is the right time. I've got people here who might be interested. I'll share with them. If they are interested, I will extend the invitation, because I think that is part of diversity work. Great. Abdul, are you ready in 30 minutes time? You are muted. Are you ready in 30 minutes time?
Yes, okay. I'll be ready.
Great stuff.
You bear with me. I made the mistake of moving away from where I'm supposed to be. I'm somewhere on the road. And as such, I get cuts, but I hope it will work. It will become stable.
Yeah, wonderful.
I'll work on it during the period.
Okay, perfect. We look forward to your segment, and that will be the last segment before our reflection panel. Thank you. We'll see you in at 1:30, 13:30 South African Standard Time. Let's log in with the right link. Great.
Thanks a lot.
Sure. See you.